You're tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Today we're going to talk about drunk driving. And my guest today is Gabrielle Abadi, and she is the Chief of Highway Safety for the Department of Transportation. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And people that know you that you are the head of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers for many years. We worked together in the General Assembly together.
We did.
And we got a lot of things done.
We did.
But guess what?
Amazing. Not
guess
enough.
What? It's not any better.
Yeah.
Not any better. So tell me what's on the plate of DOT with drunk driving.
Well, I think people need to understand, first of all, that because when you say DOT, right, when you say MAD, everybody knows that's what you're going to work on. When you say DOT and you work there, I mean, it's a loose survey, but like 85% of the people that work at DOT are related to some type of an engineer background,
right.
You know, and all of that. We do have a unit, which is my unit, Highway Safety. We are the only unit in DOT that works on behavior issues to do with the roads. So drunk driving, speed, distracted driving, not wearing a seatbelt, motorcycle helmet. So that's what my unit does. That's what I head at DOT. And I came over from MAD. MAD was such a great place for 25 years. You're right, we worked. You were a great team at the State Senate at that time, people that really understood the victimization and the 100% preventability and embraced treatment back there. I mean, you were some of the first people that even used that language, prevention and treatment.
Right.
So thanks for that. And we still continue that today. But one of, I think, the coolest things that happened at DOT was when the new administration came in 2017, they went towards engineering. That's the direction that we take there. And they had DOT engineers come up with a 10-year plan for across the state, hit every community, every state road for engineering projects. Well, the director looked at my unit and said, Gaby, you need a 10-year plan, and you need to start with impaired driving. So that's what we did. That was the first step when I first got there. Well, I got there in 14, but in 17, that's what we developed. And we're still using that. We review it once or twice a year, and we, change it. But it looks very similar to what you and I worked on before. Changing policy, working with law enforcement, working with prevention agencies, working with Buddha for treatment agencies. So I guess, unfortunately, it looks the same, but it was getting a little bit better, and then COVID hit, right? And COVID hit, and as much as vehicle miles weren't being traveled, sales of alcohol and all of that skyrocketed. People were getting fearful and depressed. I mean, so many things enveloped that. But we've maintained our percentage of alcohol-related fatalities in the 40s. 40% of all of our fatalities have to do with impairment. And nearly the same amount have to do with speed. And many of our crashes that we track, the other thing that my office does is we track all of fatalities in the state, every single one. And we look at it and say, John, we say, what could we have done to prevent this crash? If somebody is riding a motorcycle, John, and does not have a helmet on and speeds away, other than increasing our messaging out there so that maybe their family members will talk to them and maybe they'll hear a message or something like that. Sometimes we have to, quietly put our heads down and say, there's not a lot we could do, but we are so proactive that we look to every single thing. And we do that in our impaired driving crashes. What could we do? Could we increase the education of high schoolers, middle schoolers? Could we do the media program, right? Everyone's seen the ripple effect, which is intentionally...
which is great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. And one of the reasons that I think it's great, it's because it brings up the discussion
It's
thing.
real people.
That's right. It really
Real
is.
people.
And it shows the worst part of it, right? But the last one we did was really about what else can we do? So we suggested to people about, looking to shared riding, Uber and Lyft, and looking at alternative. If you can take a RIPTA bus, take a RIPTA bus, call a taxi. take the keys, host somebody at your house. Enter that realm of drinking wherever you're going to be or whatever you're going to do that night with a preparatory type of mentality. If I've got to get here to there, do a designated driver, or decide that night I'm not going to be drinking. That's just not what I'm going to do. So be prepared. So I think the thing that I get like a little bit tense about a little bit, and I keep looking for the answer to this, is that the average person that right now that is a drunk driver, the average drunk driver, that profile is still your 35 to 37-year-old male. It actually goes from 35 to 50 male. And right now, years ago it wasn't this way, but right now, those 35 to 40-year-old males, John, those are the people that had some of the best prevention education models in their schools. Those are the ones that were in, athletics or band or something, and that we streamed so much great information back then, really science-based, evidence-based information. And then it's all of a sudden you get to a certain point in your life, I guess, and you forget it, or you don't see yourself as having a problem, that whole denial thing. So we have to constantly hold hands with treatment folks and say, tell us what else we can do besides telling the stories, between trying to influence through their loved ones, because the deterrents do work. I mean, some people, get tagged for drunk driving, and it's an astronomical cost to their finances.
I don't really think they think about that. Okay, so
You'd be right.
Here's my 2 cents.
Oh, please give me 10.
So we had a serious accident a couple weeks ago in Smithfield.
Yeah.
Where a drunk driver, alleged drunk driver,
Yep.
hit the back of a police car. Police car hit the working vehicle, and unfortunately the young man lost a foot
Oh, wow.
in the accident.
Serious injury. Yep.
But the consequences, because of the legal system, are not tough enough, in my estimation.
Yep.
You could pay a fine, can't drive for 6 months. But the ultimate recklessness of doing something like that, here you have a gentleman who went to work that day not knowing that a drunk driver was going to hit that vehicle, and he ended up losing a limb over this whole thing. I think the laws need to be upgraded.
Absolutely.
I think we need to take the legal system and push it aside a little bit. As we know, there's a lot of legislators that are lawyers in the General Assembly. But if one of them was to lose a loved one for drunk driving or a limb of a drunk driver, it'd be a whole different case, as I see it with substance uses and mental health.
Yeah.
Right? That's one.
Yeah.
The other thing is, too, I think the judges in Rhode Island now should subject these people to go work in the emergency room so they can see what they did when they have a clear head. And they can see the drunk drivers bring in patients after patient after patient. And I look at it, as you indicated, COVID, you look at the sales, 234% sales are up with alcohol. We had a call, and my last guest I had, 6th graders with alcohol poisoning.
Wow. Yeah.
6th graders. I mean, you look at it and you got to shake your head. 6th graders, and you go into these facilities and you see the people, and I go in relatively often to my residential treatment, and I talk to people. And you really have to wonder why you get to the point of so drunk. My understanding is this individual was so drunk he couldn't even get out of the car.
Wow.
So what the heck is he doing behind the wheel of a vehicle? Like you said, take the keys.
Yeah.
Call an Uber.
Yeah. There's so many alternatives.
How much we have to keep pounding, and we're going to talk more about that when we come back from break.
Great.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Shanta Soni. We're here with Gabriel Body from DOT, the Chief of Highway Safety. Be right back after these.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We have the Chief of Highway Safety with us today at DOT, Gabriel Abadi. Welcome, Gabe, and thank you for joining us today. We have, both of us have a long relationship.
We do.
Going back to early 2000s. So
good advocates.
With your work. How do we change the culture?
You know, you have to nibble at it, and we've been nibbling, right? But I think one of the things that we look at, people really seem to divide, you know, road safety with behavior, overall behavior. They say, well, if you're going to get on the road. But when you think about it on every single day, there's nobody that's not on the road at some, from a newborn coming home till a 100-year-old, you know, going to a nursing home or the hospital or wherever. It's so part of us. If we could get the culture, if we could put our arms around it on the roadway, we'd be a lot safer. But how do you change it? It starts from, you know, role modeling in a family. It's such a family issue, but I mean, if I had the answer, John, I would be retired right now, you know, and so we wouldn't have anything to do. And I would like that. People might not believe that, but I would like not to have anything to do except maybe read a good book and, you know, fix my house or something. But it's such addiction grabs a person, and unless somebody's there to hold their hand. But when we look at crashes, fatalities particularly, and you were talking about the man in Smithfield that lost his leg, how many victims do you know that were the perpetrators? You know, caused their own. I mean, some of them do. I mean, like I said, the guy in the motorcycle that doesn't have a helmet, that's speeding and goes into, you know, off of a guardrail or something, that might be self-perpetuated, you know, that was. But so many of the victims you and I have met and worked with for multiple years and still do, unfortunately, were just innocent bystanders, you know, have done everything right, never drink and drive, always have a designated driver. They follow all of the rules, but there is a small amount of the population that it's just really difficult to get to, and they use that drug and they think they're better drivers. I remember one of the toughest pieces of legislation that you and I worked on when you were in the State House to do was .08, lowering it. We wanted it by 0.2, right? We just wanted to lower it a little bit, but it was proven, science, like evidence-based, that everybody at .08 is too impaired to drive a car or any automobile. It was proven. We went it with that way. I had legislators that came up to me and really voiced a concern, but Gaby, seriously, I won't be able to have a drink before I leave the house. I won't be able to have one that at the restaurant, and then I won't be able to have my after-dinner drink to go home, because people were they were still counting their stuff. I congratulated them on counting. Like, that was a really big part of the campaign, was to get people doing some self-awareness. Like, if you're worried about that, you might not want to be doing that then.
Right.
You know, stay home. And that's what people, that self-awareness and that awareness of the people you're with, what you plan on doing, that's the only way we're gonna change the culture.
Well, you know, in December we have another big problem coming on board, is that legalization of marijuana.
Yep, sales.
So what is the department looking at? Because you can't test for it.
No, you can't test for it, but we have continued for multiple years now. We've continued. We train police officers in DRE, drug recognition experts. I mean, they take the testing that they do, this field sobriety testing for alcohol, that's like a graduated, you know, something like that on steroids, so that they could talk about a drug, right? So that they can witness and know all of this. And we've really increased the amount of men and women in law enforcement on the roads that are trained that way. But we are worried about it, because all of the states that have had it for numerous years, that actually have data that you can compare before and after of the legalization of it, have seen an increase in their fatalities and serious injuries on their roadways. So we are laser focused on getting the data, on looking at it, and then we're always looking at alternative programs. You know, there's a lot, AAA's doing wonderful programs in the schools about specific to marijuana. We are trying to get parents to look and get as much information as you can to bring up the conversation about it. And actually on Friday I was just at a meeting and DBR was there, and they were talking about, like, what are they going to do for, promoting different things. Now, we have a beverage server training for alcohol, right?
Right.
It's mandatory in the state. We're going to be looking at things like that, because I think that people that handle any drug should be trained somewhat, and maybe we need to look at those things right now.
Yeah, see, my biggest concern is that there's nothing in the legislation that says anything about advertising, anything about financials,
Yep.
nothing for treatment.
Yeah.
So they're going to leave it up to a commission.
That's
Now,
right. It hasn't been named
I've
yet.
been around the block. The state of Rhode Island can't really do anything right. We
Well,
can't
that's
do
not true.
medical marijuana right.
Yeah,
So
tricky.
now we got legalization coming on board. I'm very fearful, very fearful. I don't have enough beds now
Right.
in my residential treatment to give people substance use,
Yeah.
opioid, alcohol. What do I do when marijuana comes on board and we have these people that are designated to go to treatment? I don't have enough. I don't have enough.
And I wish DOT doesn't have the answer to that. I
No,
wish
I'm-
we did, but no, I'm
just-
saying it's a conversation, I know, but we don't. But what we can do is say that we will support any of that. There have been pieces, we've taken the Marijuana Act, the Cannabis Act, apart in little bits and pieces, and we are very worried about it. We've shared our concerns with the Attorney General. The Attorney General and his staff has shared their concerns with us on how it was passed. So I think that it's going to be very similar to alcohol, right? You're going to have to go and visit different components of it. I'm hoping a lot of it is going to lie in a high quality commission that's going to look at it and not just look at it like, okay, well, there's a huge revenue tied to it. What can we do to protect and make all of the communities very secure? But it is going to be very tricky.
They need to put
It
on that
is.
commission people that have experience and people who know the issue and not be a political appointment. I mean, politics are in everything.
Right,
I get it.
they are.
I get it. But when you're utilizing this particular thing as legalization, as a huge impact for mental health, substance use, and the day-to-day operation of people going to work, going on heavy equipment, doctors,
Yeah.
lawyers, what do you do? I mean, I don't think I would want to have a heart transplant if I knew my doctor smoked 3 joints before he would put the knife in me.
No, but you don't know, John, if that same person has had all that alcohol. So I
Right.
think we have to look
Right.
at it very similarly. But the nice part about it is because the commission hasn't been named right now, right? And I don't know of any names that have been on it. We know, you and I both know that we have so much expertise in so many areas who should be sitting on a commission like that.
that should be
that are
tapped.
gonna, yes, I know. So,
No doubt.
so maybe someone will call either of us and, ask for suggestions, because I know I have a linear line of list of people. That's who I want on it. It's like, I think the retailers are going to do fine. I think that, they're going to be worried more about the black market because of the amount of taxes and all. But I think that, there has to be people in there that are going to, really hold everybody to their feet to the fire for keeping
You
communities
you
safe.
bring up a good point about the black market. That black market's not going away.
Oh,
I mean,
I don't think so.
no one wants to pay 24, 25, 26% in tax.
Yeah.
They'd rather go to the black market. But here's the problem with the black market. You don't know what's in it.
True.
You don't know what it's in it.
You're absolutely
I'm hearing
true.
stories now
Yep.
that they're putting fentanyl in marijuana.
Yep. I hear
They're
the
putting
same stories.
fentanyl in everything.
Yeah. You're
So,
absolutely
I mean,
right.
that's the key component of this whole thing.
Yeah.
How bad is bad?
I think it's pretty bad.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I think it's pretty bad. And
No,
I think that, if our generation, right, if our generation ever remembers, the marijuana from, 30 or 40 or even 50 years ago, it's not the same.
No.
It's not the same. And people need to, really embrace that. It's different. It's the whole thing is different. So,
A lot of things are different.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break so I can pay the bills.
okay.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, Shanta Sony, here with Gabe Abadi. She is the Chief of Highway Safety at DOT. We'll be right back after these messages.
And now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We have the Chief of Highway Safety as my guest today, Mr. Gabriel Abadi. Gabe, thank you for coming in today. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's an honor.
As always. One topic I want to talk about is back in the early 2000s, you, I, and a number of other individuals from DOT,
Yeah.
the seatbelt bill.
Yes, it got passed.
It got passed.
2011.
The state got a few dollars.
Yeah, nearly $4 million.
But we still have people saying, I'm not wearing my seatbelt.
That's right, John. We have nearly half of the fatalities are not wearing their seatbelts.
Really?
We
That
document
many?
that many people. And they're not old people that never wore one. They're not young people that haven't. Again, it's that middle, it's like they just lost the ability to think it through. But they're making they're driving drunk and they're not wearing their seatbelt. They're speeding and they're not wearing their seatbelt. So the causal factors, but they're getting ejected, which
Right.
you can't afford to get ejected.
So does DOT ever do like surveys of individuals who've been in accidents that don't wear the seatbelt? And you ask that one question, why?
Well, we did. It's funny that you should bring that up. We just did a big media program. It's out there now about seatbelts because we couldn't figure it out because it's a very small, very focused group of people not doing it. One of the reasons why they don't is, I'm just going 2 miles down the road. Well, they don't look at the statistics because sometimes that's when you get into a crash. Well, it's just not something that I really need to do. I never felt to do, and I don't drive very fast. I mean, you name it, they had an excuse for it. We showed them videos, we showed them the data, and we had one-on-one conversations with them, and we actually created what I think is a great media campaign around it. And some of them said they changed their behavior because of it. But you don't have that time and attention to like individual people. That's why we ask the influences in people's lives to talk to them.
Yeah, but I don't want Big Brother telling me I need to wear my seatbelt. I don't want Big Brother telling me I need to wear a helmet in a motorcycle. But guess what? Guess what? What happens if you don't do either one?
That's right. You don't do.
Big Brother puts you in the ground.
That's right. Well, yeah, he does. He does. Well, and I mean, Big Brother, though, you don't mind going on an airline, and when they put the seatbelts on, you put on, that's Big Brother. You know, a lot of federal things are to protect, and not just to protect you, to protect other people in your vehicle and other people that you're driving with.
Well, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks
it's a
for
pleasure
having me,
you.
John.
Love to have you come back.
I'd love
when you
to.
pass more stuff.
I will be
You've
back.
been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We've been here with the Chief of Highway Safety, the DOT, Gabriel Abadi. We'll see you next week.